don't do what your heart wants to. You never listen to.
Hi, okay, nice to see a hugely packed out room for this. Obviously, I can tell people are keen to hear about hiring processes. So we have with us today Kirsty Jones, and I believe you just had a promotion, haven't you? So you are...
That's so embarrassing.
But yes, so you're a senior manager, is it?
Senior director.
Senior Director of HR at Warner Music. And then we have Luisa Walton-Stoev, and she is a social coordinator. And we also have Liam Ward, who recently joined as an intern. So you'll be able to get kind of a full look at the entire hiring process, and also we'll have a little chat about how these guys got their jobs, starting with Liam. So let's hear about how you became an intern at Warner.
Well, I'm actually doing like a placement year as part of my university course, like a sandwich course where obviously I did 2 years, come and do this for a year, then I'll go back for a year. And my university, which is University of Huddersfield, has a direct relationship with Warner. I know a lot of people get sent here every year. A lot of people I've met in Warner like went to Huddersfield, which is great, and it's one of the reasons why I chose that university. And yeah, basically just applied directly through my uni, and they pretty much did the rest, kind of, rather than trying to just get in from nowhere. Like, it was good start.
So what does your day-to-day job involve?
It's kind of difficult to say, really, because it's quite ad hoc. Like, generally, it's just assisting the entire team, making sure, like, all databases are up to date, all documents, emails are sent round, which sounds kind of boring on paper, but when you realise what these documents, what these databases are doing, and you're working with some of, like, your favourite bands because of these things, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely not boring.
So, Kirsty, what is kind of Warner's process for hiring interns? What are you looking for in interns?
Yeah, well, I think with interns, it's so important to kind of get a new and fresh perspective. And I think particularly with the kind of, as our audiences are changing, our fan bases are changing, it's really important that we hire a demographic that's representative of that. So really interested in kind of, all you guys kind of being digitally native and, with new innovations and kind of creative thinking, that's really important for us. So just looking for new and fresh perspectives for everything. And obviously today we've got the 2 internship opportunities, and the reason that we've done that is that we get a lot of feedback around you almost need an internship to intern with us, and it kind of seems like it's this vicious kind of perpetuating cycle. So today we just wanted to really strip that back, and it's really just about understanding you and your ideas and kind of how you're creative.
So one of the things that we had in the last panel was a discussion about the kind of digital skills and how there's a new skill set that you kind of need for any job in the music industry. Yeah. So given that hopefully everybody here is very familiar with social media, what kind of skill set are you looking for in terms of the social media world?
Yeah, well, probably Luisa is almost better to answer that because that's her domain. But I guess from my perspective, streaming is hugely important to us in a way that it didn't even exist kind of 5-10 years ago. Yeah. So, and clearly the main platforms for that are huge tech giants. So the way that we're working is totally changing, and we need people that are really comfortable with kind of analytics and data and so on, and can really tell a story with that, and engage audiences. So I think that's a really important factor. I think probably all your social media skills are infinitely better than my own, but that's always going to be an asset. And I think we have a sort of responsibility in terms of how we are engaging and how we're marketing our artists in the social domain, and making sure that we're reaching kind of fans and being mindful of how we do that.
Fantastic. And as you said, Luisa is a social coordinator for Warner. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your job and what you do day to day?
Okay, so I don't really, similarly to Liam, it's not really a everyday same thing, same routine. It kind of changes whether I've got a mailer or announcements for different artists. But I've got a roster of about 16 artists. Some are UK developing and quite small, ranging up to big ones like Paolo Nutini or Melanie Martinez. And it's kind of as and when, if they're announcing tour dates, if there's releases, and basically just being there to go backwards and forwards with management, approving artwork, approving copy. So it's not really like a set day-to-day, but pretty much every day is different, but that's why I like it.
So how did you, we've just realised before we got on stage that we know each other from Brighton. So you're Brighton, born and bred. Like, how did you end up in London working at Warner?
So I interned for 6 months, 2-3-month internships, and I was commuting from Brighton, which was absolutely awful because I didn't have a social life at all. But I just I'm a yes person, and I'm quite, if there's something that I want to do, I'm quite enthusiastic and passionate. So obviously I love music, I love social media, and I don't know, I guess through my passion and enthusiasm, it's just got me got me here. And I worked before with YouTubers for 2 years, and I was actually made redundant in August, and it was a bit of a like shock to the system. And I thought, oh my God, nobody wants me. I'm crap. What am I doing? And I contacted a recruitment agency called Handle because I heard about a different job, and then Atlantic came up, and here I am.
Well, in kind of a very awkward term, what we're going to do is ask Kirsty why these guys got their jobs, which is horrible to do whilst they're on stage, but they did get hired, so presumably it's going to be all good things. So what was it about these two that stood out to Warner? You know, what could these guys replicate that got them their positions?
So I think Liam's leaning in. So I think, starting with Luisa, I think, actually opportunities in the labels don't come up, and they're hugely sought after. We get hundreds and hundreds of applications. So really it's about having a skill that's different or something that really stands out. I think with Luisa particularly, her experience at YouTube and her engagement with lots of the influencers there was something that brought something, a kind of new and fresh dynamic to the digital team that we didn't have in existence. And I think that's such an important area of focus for us, and how we can better utilize the platform. Because I'm sure most of you guys from an audience perspective are on YouTube, all the time. So it was a really kind of valuable asset. Obviously there's loads of other great things about her too. But I think that absolute standout. And I guess with Liam, I think with all our interns, it's really important that you've got, you obviously spot real potential in someone, but that they're really up for learning, kind of getting involved in anything and everything, and being a real sponge, and just kind of taking everything under your belt. I mean, Liam kind of intimated that some of the things that you do when you start with might not be the most glamorous thing, but actually they give you amazing grassroots understanding of kind of how the team's structured, build a network, and so on. And I think, Liam's absolutely approached that with vigor. So yeah.
So is there anything that you would say is a huge no-no? Obviously, these jobs are hugely sought after. You must get people applying in all sorts of, weird and wonderful ways. Is there anything that just puts you off a candidate instantly?
Do you know, I think probably the only thing that would really put us off is arrogance. And I think, anyone throughout the industry should always keep that in mind, because I guess it's a cool industry, and it seems to be quite a natural thing, but actually there's always something you can learn at every level. And we're just kind of trialing a mentorship program at Warner where we actually reverse mentor. So we're getting some of our kind of young junior recruits to teach our executives about different things. And I think it's kind of, just for me, really reiterates the importance that you can always learn something, and there isn't really a place for arrogance within it. But in terms of the application process, as wild and wonderful and creative as you can be, the better, because we have, as I said, hundreds of people who apply for everything. So something that really makes you stand out. We had a great example of this guy who, so Ed Sheeran is one of our biggest Atlantic artists, and obviously very relevant at the moment with his campaign. And they made this like huge gingerbread man and sent it in to the guys in Asylum where Ed signed to, and it was just like, God, we just have to meet this guy. He's gone to so much effort, and it's just a great way of getting your foot through the door.
So, open it up to you guys. So what is it like to work at Warner? Because obviously it's a job that lots of people here, I'm sure, would love. So what's it like? What are you gaining from being there?
I think it's amazing. I mean, I've got quite limited industry experience before this, obviously, and to come to work for such a big company is insane. Like, the perks that you get, like, the gigs you get to go to, the people you get to meet, it's just insane. Like, and then you do have to work hard for it. It's not like it's all like glitz and glamour and partying, like probably about 50% maybe. But no, you do have to work hard like in the day. But everyone's really chill as well. Everyone's quite like creative and casual, because obviously to work in the music industry, you've got to be a certain personality set, I guess. So we're always like having beers once it gets to about 4 p.m. on a Friday and chilling out, and then
this is a
God
really
knows
bad
what happens
representation,
then.
Liam. Work really hard, kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great. And when I was called and told that I had the job, I sort of didn't really believe it. And I really lame to say this, but I actually had a bit of a cry, because I briefly was working, I was a social media manager for a club in Camden, and I hated it. I was there for like 2 days, and on the second day, I got called about this Atlantic job, and I was like, oh my God. And it's really nice to work in, like, the building's really amazing. Like, that sounds ridiculous, but even the building, like, when I'm walking to work, sometimes I see tourists taking photos of the front of it, and I'm like, this is cool, I work here. And yeah, the gigs are great. I go to a lot of gigs, which is, I mean, I'm a massive gig and festival fan, so
Yeah.
going to them free for work is pretty cool. And also there's actually a Warner choir, which I'm part of. And we sang with Kylie Minogue just before Christmas, and it was a live stream on her Facebook page. So obviously that's not entirely work related, but through work, and that was pretty cool, so that's a fun perk.
Yeah.
We try and create an environment that's about kind of you holistically. So looking after you, mind, body, soul, and then that kind of makes you feel good and well, and you can do your best work. So things like the choir, we did a kind of big wellness week a couple of weeks ago and got loads of kind of fitness, nutrition people in just to help make sure that we're kind of the best that we can be.
Yeah.
That is one thing actually that Warner, even though it's a huge company, it's like, I mean, I'd say the best record label in the world. It's quite nice that they care. Like the president, Max, is quite cool. And if he's in the lift, he says hi. And it's quite nice that they want the people working there to have this like positive culture. And it's not just, obviously you've got to work hard, but at the same time, it's not just work all the time. If there's drinks after work, or if there's the wellness week, or I went to a screening of the new Fantastic Beasts film the day before it came out. And that it's just really nice that they do things to get your creative juices flowing and not just always be sat at your desk. Because I mean, obviously it's great working in the music industry, but most of it you are sat at a desk sending lots of emails and getting things approved and backwards and forwards. But then
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure they've made it sound amazing. I'm sure everybody here is dying for one of these jobs. And obviously, you have internships available today. So, other than, say, coming up to you and dazzling you with an idea today, what are the other ways that people can get a job, not necessarily just with Warner, but in the industry? Where should they be looking? What should they be doing?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I've been talking to quite a lot of you today outside, and please do come and talk to us after. But I think one of the best things you can do is just get to know as many different people and understand as much of the kind of music infrastructure as you can. So, we get most people come through our door and all they want to do is A&R, but actually that's a very small part of our business. Obviously, it's hugely important, but there's loads of other ways that, whether you're creative, whether you're really analytical, anything kind of, there's an opportunity for you. So my biggest piece of advice would be, there's very few people that won't take a coffee with you. So, it's hugely flattering if you get an email being like, oh, hey, I just want to understand about you and how your journey and how you got here. And there's very few people that will really turn that down. So, utilize events like today to really network and meet different people and understand the different kinds of roles and opportunities within the business. And I think that's, a great start point.
And as you said, not all of it is really glamorous, not all of it is A&R, which is obviously what people very often think of. So what would you guys say is something that you perhaps do in your job you didn't realise would have been part of a job in the music industry?
Well, my Wednesday mornings, I spend about an hour basically looking through Amazon and basically making sure everything looks good. And that's not something I ever really thought about before, like that kind of front line and like iTunes and Spotify, all these kind of DSPs, like digital sale points, I think they're called. Basically just making sure they look cool, and like you see them every day, but you never really think there's someone sat at a computer on a Wednesday morning going through this and making edits and making sure everything's spell checked and that the pictures look okay and all this kind of thing. Yeah, I never really thought about that before.
Yeah.
I think one thing for me was we live in this digital age where all of us use Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We know how to do everything. We know about Instagram stories. But it was quite baffling for me that some artists just don't know how to do it. They just don't, what's an Instagram story? How do you do this? And I think, before I got the job at Atlantic, I was, really disheartened and, thought that I was never going to get another job after being redundant, and I just felt like, I don't know anything, no one's going to hire me. People are like, well, you love social media, you're on it all the time, you know about pop culture, you're passionate about music, which is great, but I think people don't realise that it comes so easy to us, and that's really, really great skills to have, and you sort of don't realise how it's just second nature to us, but to some artists, they just don't know.
Yeah. We had a panel, the last panel we had, Dan Gumbel from Music Week, which is an industry publication. You should check it out if you haven't read it. And he was talking about how the markers of success for an artist have really changed. It used to be you charted at number one, and now it takes 2,000 singles to get to number one. It doesn't really mean anything. So in your job as a social coordinator, what are the markers of success in a more digital way?
I mean, I think it's all very well having thousands and thousands of followers, but I think the engagement on posts is quite important. So, you can get an artist or an influencer posting stuff, but if it gets 10 likes and they've got 300k followers, doesn't know what's the point in having all those people just sat there. So I think engagement's like a really positive thing, and getting your fans engaged and getting, encouraging artists to like communicate with and create a conversation with their fans, so that there's that ongoing conversation, rather than it just being like, here's my new single, but being like, guys, what do you like about my new single? Or, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, we also talked in the panel about how the kind of digital revolution, in the fact that people can just create their own music and they can publicize themselves online, is creating kind of a new role for labels. So what would you say is kind of Warner's forward strategy in terms of that?
Yeah, it's a really, really valid point and good question. I think that I could probably talk about this all day, but in short, I think we need to move from kind of a product management to a kind of brand manager. And you had Max, one of our partnerships team, in one of the earlier sessions. And actually, I think we need to create a brand proposition for an artist, rather than, as you say, single sales aren't particularly a metric of success anymore. It's much more around a kind of building a real narrative. So I think that's a hugely important focus. And both of these guys' roles really play into that. So thinking about, we're not just kind of getting CDs on shelves anymore. Probably most of you guys don't even have a CD player. It's much more of a kind of a rounded proposition these days.
And is it more about, because obviously both of you guys said your job's not the same day to day, so is there less place for kind of traditional roles? Do you need to kind of be able to do a bit of everything to work at a record label?
Yeah, I think that would really help. And I think so many different skills blend into each other. So, historically, marketing and digital sat entirely separately, and actually they converge daily. And we've got some great success stories of people that have transitioned between the two, because it's so difficult to really delineate one from the other. So I think it's really important to have kind of, a mixed skill set. And also there's lots of opportunities. So we, for example, do what we call an innovation panel. So we give people the opportunity to pitch ideas that don't have to be relevant to kind of artist campaigns they're working on. They can be anything and everything. So one of the examples recently, this guy's working on an app to support dementia sufferers, which is obviously completely removed from anything we do, but felt like a great idea. And so, I think there's a forum to express kind of things outside of your traditional day-to-day, and I think that will only play a more important role going forward.
So what do you think is the most important factor of your experience that will help you in your career going forwards? So where would you both like to see yourself in 5 years, and what about Warner is helping you get there?
That's a big one.
I actually don't even know where I want to be in 5 years.
I think it's quite hard to say. I think if you want to work on something like this, you've got to be open-minded as well. Like, there might be 5 years' time, who knows where music's going to be, where technology is going to be. This whole new revolution could happen. Like, who knows, really? And you've got to kind of be able to adapt to that. Like, obviously, a lot of the people who are probably heading up, like, digital stuff, like when they were first getting started, digital just wouldn't have been a thing. So if you said to them when they were starting, like, what are you going to do in 5 years, they'd probably be like, oh, I'm going to work purely on cassettes and everything, that's going to happen. That obviously just wouldn't have been the case at all. I think you'll be quite open-minded. Like, I'm open-minded anyway. I don't know, could work at a record label, could work in live, could work in music journalism, who knows. Preferably probably in a label, hence why I'm here. But
good answer. and yourself?
I mean, it's so funny because so often people are like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? But 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would be working at a record label. I went to BIM, a uni in Brighton, and did vocals. And I was like, I'm going to be a singer. I want to be like Hayley Williams, And then kind of by accident, I did an internship. And then, I don't know, here I am. And so I honestly have no idea where I want to be in 5 years. But I've been at Atlantic for 4 months, and I'm loving it. And it's just such a nice culture, and it makes me feel good, and the people there are nice, and it's quite cool to be part of something so big.
Well, obviously, in your role as social coordinator, what would be your tips? Because obviously, we also have musicians here today, not just people who are looking to be on the industry side. What would be your tips for how they can market themselves in today's industry?
I think finding like a strong tone of voice and brand, like what you were talking about. I think it's really important to be consistent. So, whether you're a YouTuber or whether you're, a musician, not focused on YouTube, it's consistency. And I think especially when you're growing, it's really important to notice the people that are the fans that have been with you from the beginning and engage with them, and because they're the super fans, they're the ones that are going to be shouting about you and going, oh my God, check this person out, and it's free promotion. So I think that it's really important to notice those ones that obviously care a lot and are really invested in you as a musician.
Yeah.
But I think building like a strong online presence, but like it doesn't have to be every single day, but just making sure that you're consistent with your tone of voice, with your branding. And so if someone discovers you somewhere, that isn't like a random tweet of you saying swear words and, I mean, ranting about something that's completely irrelevant. I think you've got to be aware that the internet, people can find anything.
Yeah.
Just to be aware.
You know, on to
relevant
Kirsty,
from
I was going to say,
absolutely.
what is, you know, obviously, it's a huge thing that people don't realise these days is that your employers will go through your social media. So is that something Warner does? Should people here be checking their tweets and their Instagrams and, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's definitely something we do. We don't do it consistently across everyone, but certainly there's relevant areas, you know, particularly roles like Louisa's where, you know, your personal preference and your own brand that you're creating, you know, if you haven't got that on point, then, you know, does that inspire confidence that you're going to do the same for our artists? So yeah, it's a really relevant point. And it's quite difficult kind of with the current political backdrop, I think, to be very bland on social media, but I would just say, just be really mindful of who you are and what you want to present.
I am guilty of a Trump rant, though.
I think we all are. I think that's fine, but but yeah, I would just say be mindful of that. It's certainly something that is out there. Just think about it.
So moving on from that, what is the actual hiring process? So in terms of straight from application, you know, what would be the process that people go through before being employed, hopefully being employed with Warner Music?
Do you know, it totally varies per role. So, you know, I would say in our creative functions, that can feel like anything and everything. But I would say, you know, we kind of judge doesn't feel like the right word, but we kind of assess people on a number of things. Obviously, there's kind of the core skill around the job itself, and usually we'll do some sort of task associated. So we'll set a campaign idea with someone and ask them to go away and come back and then present their ideas. And we're looking for all different kinds of things. So, you know, it's the fact that someone's really put effort into something, that they're well researched, well thought out, but also kind of new thinking and different ideas that don't currently sit within the team currently. And then culture is really important to us. So we talked a bit about kind of some of the things that we do that are more kind of extramural. And it's really important that we feel that people are a good fit for our family and that they'll add to the culture and really contribute to that. So that's where we tend to have kind of more informal, almost like speed dates within teams so that you get a real feel for what we're about, because I think that's just as important. You know, you spend more time at work than you do with your friends and family, so you need to feel comfortable and like they're people that you really want to spend your time with.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. What we're going to do now is open it up to questions. So I'm hoping that we've got some really great ones out there. So just throw your hand in the air if there's something you'd like to ask, and we'll get a mic over to you. Down here? Or you can probably just shout.
I think, yeah, it depends on the artist completely. I don't think there's one thing that works for everyone. It really is. I know that's such a wishy-washy answer, but I don't think there is like one formula for everyone. One thing that I was thinking of when you were talking actually, like about preparing for a job thing. One thing that I wish that I'd done that I didn't was like if I now look back and I think of all these really cool like creative campaigns I've seen, for example, Years and Years, when they did that hashtag to choose the end of their music video. It was like on TV, like I think maybe 2 years ago. I sort of wish that I'd kept a notebook or like a note in my phone of like cool campaigns I've seen, because that was one thing in my interview. My now boss Nick was like, so tell me about some cool things. And Years and Years was the only one I could think of. And I've seen so many cool ones, and I was sat there like, I know there's loads of really great ones. So I think if you want to get into digital, if you want to get into social, I think maybe keeping like a list of cool things that you've seen that you can use as like inspiration and talk about. Yeah, sorry, that totally went off on a tangent there, but I don't think there's one thing for artists on socials. It really depends. Sorry.
Any other questions? At the back, in the very brightly coloured jacket.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss the answer about the internship. Where can we find more information about it?
So today we've got 2 opportunities that I can't remember if I've talked so much today, I've got kind of deja vu of what I've said where. But really, when we were talking about, lots of our feedback is that you need an internship to get our internships, and we want to really strip that back, and we just want to know about your ideas, not your background, not what you've done before, just kind of the raw you. So today we've got a press internship in Atlantic and a marketing internship in Parlophone. So if either of those feel interesting, come and chat with us. We'll just be outside after. But generally our internships, we actually work with a provider called Future Rising, and they support us in helping source kind of as broad and diverse a range of candidates as possible. So they're a great kind of pit stop, and they look after all our structured ones. So once a year we have like an internship intake that sort of, is it in the summer? Was it June, July, something like that?
The interview process, I think mine was quite early. I think mine was about this time last year, actually.
Right. So yes, we do, and then they normally start at some point in the summer. So Future Rising supports all those, and then we have ad hoc opportunities as well that kind of come up. So that's why look into our website and look on our socials, and go from there. Good luck.
Cool. We've got another question down here.
Hi, I was just wondering, what are the skills, qualities, and attributes that you look for in an intern?
Where to start? I think, I think in terms of bespoke skills, that totally depends on the type of area that you go into. But I feel like I've kind of said it a lot today, but we're just looking for different skills and interesting insights. So I think be really culturally curious. I think that's really important. We don't just compete with other record labels anymore. We compete with Netflix, we compete with Facebook, Apple, everyone. So I'm really interested for someone that's really rounded and has kind of insights into lots of different industries, that they can bring a really kind of rich thinking into what they're doing. But I think, it sounds really cliched, but it's super hard work, and I think it's just really important that you're really enthusiastic and that you really kind of just go with anything, and whether it's photocopying, you just do it with a big smile on your face, and it makes all the difference. It really does. And we've got a huge success rate in terms of our internships converting into permanent roles, so it's almost about 50%. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to really come in, show your worth, and work really hard. Does that kind of answer your question? Obviously, if there's more specific stuff, come and chat with us after.
Hi. Since some careers are becoming obsolete in the music industry and some knowledge is becoming obsolete in the music industry, I wanted to ask, what would you say is the next big career within the music industry, within a label? The next big career from 2015 onwards, what career has been booming?
It's a great question. I would just correct you around obsolete, because I think that experience is always valuable. So I think there's always a role for it to play. And it's really about, a big part of our job, and the guys that are with me today, is about how we ensure that people kind of continue to develop and pivot their thinking. So, but in terms of the next big thing, I'd say it's all about content. I think that's really important. So if you think, your socials are flooded with like bite-sized, snackable content, whether it's like a Lad Bible type thing, whether it's like a cat video, whatever it is. And I think our opportunity to really work with that and sort of find a place where artists have a role in that is a really important next step. Good question.
Any others?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hiya. Well, basically, because I'm not from the EU, because I'm actually trying to apply an internship in any recording label at the moment, but two of the big recording label at the moment is like the first, and they're asking me, are you actually okay to work in the UK? So do you mean like, basically it means like, do you need a visa for that? So do you still kind of employ people outside the EU? I think loads of people are asking this kind of question loads of time.
It totally depends. I have to say, visa stuff is not my thing. So, as Alice will tell, but we really struggle with it. But I think just come and speak to us, and we do some research on it, because sometimes you can do a certain period of time. So, like we could go to the US for 90 days and so on. So things like that. It might be that there's kind of a shorter, kind of more concentrated opportunity that we could look at. But yeah, we look at it kind of case by case. Obviously, at the moment with kind of Brexit and stuff, we're all a bit lost as to quite what's going to happen. So it's definitely something that we need to learn about. But yeah, come and chat with us. All right.
We're going to go over here. Sorry,
She's running around with the mic.
Hello, my name is Adina. I would like to know if you would need in your team a multicultural person for your press position. Yeah, I know this is after when I'm going to meet you, but a person who speaks like 5 languages or 6 and knows a lot about different cultures, work in other countries, in musical associations at national level. Maybe it would fit. So just because you said before, we need for variety and different skills, so that different skills rang a bell into my...
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a really, really good point. So, every artist that we sign, it's our aspiration that they become global superstars. So someone that has an intricate knowledge and understanding of different cultures and different sort of approaches, absolutely, it's a hugely valuable skill set.
Well, thank you very much.
Hands up for questions?
One down there.
Just
Oh,
here?
sorry. I saw her first,
Oh.
so you'll have to wait.
Hi, I wanted to ask about, because I'm a university student and I'm about to finish in about 2 months, so I wanted to ask you a little bit more about graduate opportunities and whether there is, outside of internships, whether there is specific skills or experiences that I would need if I wanted to get a full-time employment?
Graduates, that's an interesting one. We don't have a graduate scheme per se. I think some of the other majors do. I think Universal do more of a grad scheme. It's something we've had in the past, but actually we found that we couldn't really give a really rounded rotation like you would get in a grad scheme in a big corporate, like, if you work for Ernst & Young or something, and you do different seats and you gather different experience. And we also found that people tend to have a preference to stay in one place, and then we couldn't move them for love nor money. So it's not something that worked particularly well for us. Our internships often are graduates, but equally that's not a prerequisite. Obviously, there are some areas, business affairs, some of the finance populations where you do need kind of graduate qualifications to progress through. But yeah, it's not something that we have a real focus on, but it does tend to be kind of where most people come from through internships and so on.
Okay, hands up for questions.
We've got time for one more.
Make it a really great one.
Oh, yes.
This guy?
Sorry. I meant to come back to you. Oh, it's very embarrassing.
Sorry, this is just more of a kind of specific one for Luisa, actually. I was just interested under coordinating artist socials and stuff like that. Do you also deal with managing potential partnerships or promotions that they might do on, a campaign if they're working with another brand, promoting a product or something like that?
No, that's not so much I guess if there was like a brand partnership that was kind of already decided, I might help with then executing the stuff on the socials, but I wouldn't be involved in the kind of setting up initially. There's like a brand team that do all that. I think there was a guy that spoke earlier that was from the brand team. But no, I'd probably help once it was all confirmed and it was like, we need to post this about that to tick it off the contract or whatever. Yeah, no, I don't really deal with that.
Well, thank you so much. Obviously, I'm sure everybody can agree that was a really informative session. And if you want to see yourself up on stage here next year, don't forget there are internships. Come up, talk to these guys. Don't harass them. Don't be weird, but do come and say hello. And if we could just give them a huge round of applause.